Shadow Minister Stephen Kinnock.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's been an incredibly well-subscribed debate today, so in the time that's available to me, I'm not going to be able to thank all of my honourable friends behind me for their absolutely excellent contributions. I hope they'll forgive me for thanking them all collectively. I'd also like to thank some on the benches opposite for making some excellent and insightful contributions, and particularly, of course, the Right Honourable Member for Maidenhead. Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm old enough to remember Conservative Home Secretary, the Right Honourable Member for Witham, standing at that dispatch box and promising the House that her new Nationality and Borders Bill would deter illegal entry to the UK, break the business model of the smuggling gangs and protect the lives of those whom they are endangering. Fast forward 2 years, scroll your way through a few more Prime Ministers and Home Secretaries, and here we are again, having to listen to the same old reheated rhetoric and empty promises. The more things change, Madam Deputy Speaker, the more they stay the same. Now, the party opposite likes to claim that it stands for secure borders. But when the last Labour government left office in 2010, fewer than 10,000 people were waiting for a decision on a claim for asylum. And yet it now stands at more than 160,000, the highest since records began. And members opposite will also recognise that the number of failed asylum seekers being returned has decreased by an astonishing 80% since 2010. So the reality is that successive Conservative governments since 2010 have lost control of our borders, and the people smugglers are laughing all the way to the bank. And a third bit of nonsense being peddled by the benches opposite is that this bill will stop the boats. Madam Deputy Speaker, everyone agrees that the small boats crossings must be stopped. Thousands of people are risking life and limb, and it's utterly appalling that the people smugglers are making millions from this trade in human misery. So fundamentally the question is whether the measures set out in this bill can reasonably be expected to solve the problem. And the answer to that question is a clear and resounding no. In fact, if this bill were to pass, it would actively make matters worse by adding further to the enormous asylum backlog and by piling further cost onto the staggering £7 million a day hotel bill that's currently being picked up by the British taxpayer. This is because, Madam Deputy Speaker, the government can label channel crossers inadmissible or illegal all they want, and they can promise that they will be detained and swiftly removed until the cows come home. But the fact is that ministers are completely unable to answer these two obvious and vitally important questions. Detained where? And removed to where? Now, Rwanda's a non-starter because the Rwandan government can only take 200. And how on earth is the government planning to send asylum seekers back across the Channel unless we have a formal returns agreement with the EU to replace the Dublin Convention? Now, ministers tried all of this last year. Under the Nationality and Borders Act, they made 18,000 people inadmissible. And how many did they remove or return, Madam Deputy Speaker? 21. I would therefore encourage ministers to drop their obsession with chasing tabloid headlines and to focus instead on prioritising measures that will actually work. Which brings me to the final myth that needs busting, Madam Deputy Speaker, the idea that we on these benches have somehow not been putting forward our own proposals. Every single time the Leader of the Opposition, the Shadow Home Secretary and I have come to this dispatch box, we have set out exactly how Labour in government will tackle the small boats crossings and fix an asylum system that has been utterly broken by 13 years of Tory incompetence and indifference. But it appears that members on the benches opposite have not been paying attention. So let me remind them of our plan. First, we will scrap the unaffordable, unworkable and unethical Rwanda scheme and redirect all that wasted taxpayer money into resourcing a 100-strong elite cross-border police unit to relentlessly pursue the real enemy, the ruthless criminal gangs and traffickers, and to ensure that we tackle this upstream, working with the French and across Europe to defeat the gangs. Second, we would negotiate a returns agreement with the EU as a matter of urgency. Madam Deputy Speaker, successive Conservative governments since 2016 have focused on trashing relations with our European partners and allies. So the Prime Minister has a mountain to climb in terms of rebuilding the trust that's going to be required as the basis for securing a returns deal. We wish him well. But the reality is that it's going to take a Labour government to pick up the pieces and succeed where the government has so badly failed. Third, we would introduce long overdue measures to get a grip on the decision-making process for asylum claims. We would clear the backlog once and for all by establishing an effective triage system and by reversing the absurd and incomprehensible decision to downgrade the seniority of key Home Office officials. And fourthly, while the government does little more than pay lip service to the idea of safe and legal routes, we will act to fix the current resettlement programmes, including the broken Afghanistan pathways. Madam Deputy Speaker, it's time to let the grown-ups back into the room. 3 years ago, many people who had never voted Tory before put their trust in this government because they wanted secure borders, controlled migration and competent governance. But absolutely none of those things has been delivered. So it is little wonder that the country has had enough of a government that cynically brings forward bills that are far more about scapegoating and slogans than they are about solutions. They are little wonder that they've had enough of a government that knows it can't stand on its record. So instead it's planning to fight the general election on a platform that is all about stoking anxiety, fear and division. Madam Deputy Speaker, the good news is that the British people are not stupid. They watch on as Conservative ministers blame everyone else for their own failures. They blame the civil servants, they blame the lawyers, they blame the European Union and the ECHR. Madam Deputy Speaker, they even blame the football pundits. But our constituents know exactly where the buck stops. They know that the day is approaching when they will be able to vote for a Labour government that will tackle the small boats crisis and deal with the myriad other challenges and crises that our country is facing after 13 years of Tory failure. And they know that that day cannot come soon enough.
Madam Deputy Speaker.